Hi everyone. Today we're going to take a look at the Turning Points GRRR, our Global Regions Rev Up Review. And we can see here that it defines turning points as times when decisive changes occur, and that they often have political, social, and cultural impacts. So what we want to look at there are specific events that have an effect on changing the grapes of a place, the geography, religion, achievements, politics, economy, or society. And there are a few that are included here. So before we take a look at those, one of the steps is to make sure you label the continents and oceans. And I just want to make sure that if you're not sure of that, please Google it, put it into the search bar. If you put in 7 continents and 5 oceans map, you'll get all sorts of possibilities that can guide you through labeling those. And then we'll draw our arrows. So the first turning point that's listed here is the fall of Constantinople. You can see it occurred in 1453. The Christian Byzantine Empire controlled the city, fell to the Muslim Ottoman Empire. So Constantinople was here in between the Black and Mediterranean Seas, and so we can draw our arrow there. And the Ottomans took over Constantinople, which was basically the last part. We say the Byzantine Empire controlled it, but they weren't much of an empire anymore. It was basically just the city itself. And that really shifted from Christian dominance of the Eastern Mediterranean to a Muslim one. Our next turning point is the voyages of Columbus, which occurred in 1492. These voyages led to the Columbian Exchange. Now, this is important. This was this is also on the Diversity and Interdependence GRRR, and I believe also on the Change GRRR, that this Columbian Exchange was a global exchange of people, plants, animals, ideas, and technology that transformed life in Asia, the Americas, Africa, and Europe. So basically all of the places that we studied this year. Now, Columbus started his voyages in Spain, but he ended them over here in the island of Hispaniola. So wherever your arrows go, anywhere in there, and you can see they crisscross the Atlantic just like he did. Next we have Mansa Musa's Hajj, so a religious pilgrimage to Mecca from 1324 to 1325. The Hajj is part of the 5 pillars, which are the key teachings of Islam. So he was a Muslim. So he made the Hajj. He's from Mali, which is here in West Africa along the Niger River. And then he made the Hajj across the Sahara to Mecca here on the Arabian Peninsula. And then really increased the exposure of people in the Middle East to what was happening in sub-Saharan or south of the Sahara, Africa. Our last turning point is the Protestant Reformation. So it's a period when Europeans broke away from the Roman Catholic Church and formed new Christian churches. So this keyword European should give us the clue that we're going to draw our arrow up here to the continent of Europe. So our map gets a little bit messy, but we can see all those different turning points. If you need to check those arrows again, you can pause the video. I'm going to move forward and erase my comments. So we have 4 multiple choice questions here. What impact Gutenberg's printing press had on Western Europe was. So the printing press allowed for increased literacy, which is the ability to read and write. And also more people, because of that, began reading the Bible for themselves and questioning what the Roman Catholic Church had to say. So we want an answer that has something to do with that. And that, to me, reminds me of the Protestant Reformation. So we're looking for an answer that has something to do with the Protestant Reformation, and hopefully you recognize Martin Luther's name, who started the Protestant Reformation. In the late 1400s and early 1500s, what was a major reason for the European voyages of exploration? So this major reason phrase tells us that this question is looking for a cause. What caused the European voyages of exploration? So at this point in time, in the late 1400s and early 1500s, the Ottoman Empire was still controlling the Eastern Mediterranean and taxing anyone who tried to trade through there to get to the Silk Roads and Indian Ocean. So the Europeans wanted alternate trade routes so that they did not have to pay those taxes to the Ottomans. What was one effect of the Columbian Exchange on European society? If you're not sure what this is, please go ahead and look above on your worksheet, and you'll see the answer there talks about the exchange of new foods and ideas. So you want something that has to do with that. And anytime we see the introduction of new foods, you're going to see a rise in population. That happens everywhere because people have a healthier diet. Which statement about the Protestant Reformation is an opinion rather than a fact? So even if you didn't know anything about the Protestant Reformation, you should be able to answer this question by just looking for words that clue us into an opinion. And so this word stronger implies that one thing is better than another, and that tells us that it's probably an opinion. And so you'd want to look to see, are there other words like this in other answers, and that can help you try to figure out what your answer is there. Okay, I'm going to move forward to the reading. Alright, so what does our reading have to say this time? The conquest of the New World, beginning in 1492, set in motion complex processes of cultural diffusion and population mixture. So cultural diffusion, the blending of cultures. We've seen that in a lot of other places. So they're saying, okay, so cultural diffusion occurred after the conquest of the New World. And what do we mean by New World? New World, we're talking about the Americas. Because although to the native peoples there they were not new, right? To the Europeans they were. They did not know they existed before 1492. The seizure and control of the Americas became so important to Europe economically and politically that it had the long-term consequence of altering European interests worldwide. So they became important economically and politically. So this tells me that North and South America, and controlling North and South America, gave the European countries wealth and power. And so they really wanted that, and so it changed their interests worldwide. Before 1492, and now this is important because whenever you describe or hear about a turning point, you need to look at both the before and the after. So this is telling us, before 1492, Europe's center was the Mediterranean. That's the sea, south of Europe. After 1492, Europe's orientation shifted radically. It became centered at first around the Atlantic and much later around the Pacific Ocean. So, when our question asks us, based on this document, state one way Europe's focus on the world changed after 1492, we can see that it really shifted from being focused on local, what was close to Europe, to what was far away, right? And so it shifted from being focused on the Mediterranean to being focused on the Atlantic and Pacific Oceans, because that focus could bring them more wealth and power. You'll notice as I read the question that I circled one. Some of these questions ask you for one answer, some ask you for two. And so you want to be aware of that so that you can answer it fully. All right, so we're going to move forward here. So in terms of outside information, you can take a look at what those causes were. And so this document really gave you the effects of the 1492. So you can look at causes. What caused the Europeans to go traveling? The document does not tell you who did the exploring, so you could answer who went exploring in 1492. That helped start that revolution. And then how does the topic of this source connect to what you are currently learning in class? So again, this describes a very specific turning point. And you could name another turning point. Just make sure that you connect it very clearly to the source. So for example, if I was going to make a connection to the Neolithic Revolution, which is also an important turning point in human history, I would want to say that the Neolithic Revolution caused important changes in what people ate, right? Because they were farming their food instead of hunting and gathering. They ate a lot more grains. And so did this change. So did this change after 1492, right? That also changed what people ate. And so you'd want to be specific about that. I have not written my answer in complete sentences, but you should when you submit your work. Thank you.